God,
grant us serenity to accept things that cannot change, courage to change things that can, and wisdom to know the difference.
All right, so this portion of the weekend is called the Ask It Basket. So that's what the basket's here for. So basically, me and Ephraim are going to draw a name, and then we're just going to answer the question as best we can. So it'll be kind of spontaneous, be kind of fun, hopefully. So, all right. How do I continue to stay honest with myself and not let my mind play tricks on me? Because I know this disease is insidious. So how do I continue to be honest with myself and not let my mind play tricks on me? Good luck. I think one of the things in my life is like sometimes I forget about the importance of it. So in the 10th step, it talks about in the 10th step, when we're stirred, we ask God to remove it at once, and then we talk with somebody else, and then we turn ourselves to others. One of the biggest things that a lot of times that I think is skipped, and especially from a lot of big book people that I see, is it's like I rely on God. I don't need anybody else, And one of the biggest things for me is like that's one of the critical parts is that discussion with another person, because I get a lot of good ideas, and a lot of things where I'm thinking I'm being honest with myself, and it's to the point of like there's a big difference in like denial and delusion, and sometimes I'm in such, I don't even think it's dishonest. I'm just completely delusional, Even today, there's some things in my life that I just can't see at all, And I remember Dave would tell me, he probably got it from somebody else, but I remember he's like, if you got a good idea, call me. And then he said, if you got a great idea, come see me. Mostly for his own entertainment. But being honest with myself, we didn't go too much this weekend like into the mechanics of it, but the inventory at night, the 11th step inventory at night, answering those questions on page 86, if I do that every night, so what I do is I do it in a notebook, and I go through and I answer the questions. If I have a resentment, I'm writing out a resentment inventory, Where was I selfish? Where was I dishonest? Where was I afraid? And I write all these things down. If I need to discuss something with somebody at once, which is rare that it's that pressing. But, luckily I know people all over. And if there's something really, really killing me, I can call somebody. Do I owe any amends? Have I packed into the stream of life? All these questions. And if I'm doing that on a regular basis, then, and I'm in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's hard to be dishonest with myself for too long, And get some friends in your life that are going to tell you the truth, whether it's going to hurt your feelings or not. And in New York, they used to say, like, I'd rather step on your toes than walk on your grave, And that was, like, really, really critical for me. Like, Dave has zero problem getting in my face about stuff. Zero problem. And for me, that's just incredibly critical. So what you got on that?
My name's Ephraim, alcoholic. That step 11 on awakening, one of the first things it says is direct my thinking. Ask God to direct my thinking. I used to blow past that when I was reading it. I'd say, think about 24 hours ahead, blah, 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 and divorce me from self-pity, blah, blah, blah. But I would blow right past that. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking. And it's like, if you read that, it says, on awakening, we think about the 24 hours ahead. And then it tells you, before you begin, ask God to direct your thinking. I'm like, I'm already starting to think about the 24 hours ahead. It's like, you should have told me that prior. So it's like, so what I do is, I roll out of bed, I hit my knees in the morning, I say, thank you, God, for one more day, direct my thinking. Because that's what happens is, my thinking is part of my problem. And then there's a whole lot of information in that On Awakening that talks about the proper use of the mind, using your mental faculties with assurance when intuition happens, when in doubt, it's almost like I was given a perfectly good mind, but nobody ever really told me how to use it. And if I was given perfectly good hands and no one ever told me how to use them, And so I had these hands that were good, but I didn't know how to use them. You would call me handicapped. And what I have is a mind that nobody's really taught me how to use, so I'm mentally handicapped. And so I need to start learning how to use the mind, and that's what that is. But even then, there can be some delusion, and that's when like I'm running stuff by people. Everything that runs through my mind is questionable. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but I can't tell the difference. So it's all questionable. And so I'll run it by people. And sometimes that's what we do, is me and Matthew or Dave or somebody in my circle, I'll just, hey, let me run something by you. I'll get a text, hey, let me run something by you. And you know what that is. It's like I got an idea, you know. I've been in prayer and meditation before. You know, I have the whisper. I've been in prayer and meditation before, thanking God for one more day, and then I hear this voice go buy a truck! God, is that you? F-350? F-350, God? And it's like, no, that was not. So I need to be So in my mind, I had to name it. I had to be able to recognize the voices, the whisper. That's more like a Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman in a white robe, he's always very calm. He's never screaming at me. He's like, you probably shouldn't have done that. And then I have this other voice that's screaming, that's like, it's in my head, it's like, you ever seen the Marlboro Man silhouette? He's all black, leaned up against he's got that cigarette in his mouth. That's slick. And so I can identify them. I get to know my demons, you know. And so that's one way I do it.
Take the next one and read it.
All right, here goes. I'm going to pull this next one. How active should a sponsor be after going through the steps? That's a good one. How active should a sponsor be after going through the steps? Well, this is what I do. I go line by line through the book with my guys. Big book. First 164 pages. That's what I do. Line by line. I hold their hand. By the end of that, hopefully they're working with sponsees. If they're like super active and they're go-getters and they're getting sponsees, I back off. You know, and we'll see each other at meetings. We talk. We're doing our texting and talking throughout the day. And usually what happens is they're not calling me about, man, I had a bad day. They're calling me going, man, I'm trying to help this new guy and blah, blah, blah. So I'll point out to them, well, it's working because you're calling to talk about them and not you. So there's good sign there. And then, but if they're not go-getter, going after it, then I'll break up into 12 and 12, and I drag them through that. And that either makes them relapse, or they're gonna start getting to work before we finish the 12 traditions, you know.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, you know, Ralph W. is always talking about, you know, what makes a good sponsor, and it's like it's a good sponsee. Yeah, you know, exactly. Like I think that I've got it, you know, sometimes, and I'm like this spiritual guy or whatever, and then I get this lunatic, you know, going to meetings telling everybody that I'm a sponsor, making me look bad, you know, and it's like, just don't kill anybody, you know, and it's, you know, and I have this thing where like, you know, I know what the question's talking about, but I also want to talk about like sponsorship today is just as important as it was when I first walked in the door for me. Like I got Dave in my life, and I talk to Dave on a regular basis, you know, because I think I'm going to get so spiritual I don't need you anymore, and that's so far from the truth. Because I can get in a lot of trouble pretty quickly if I'm listening to that inner voice that ain't correct. But I remember calling Dave one time, and I had some idea or something came to me. It was like I had a problem in my life, and I'd been praying about it, and that's what came to me. And I called Dave, and he just like paused. And he's like, you know what? He's like, what used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. You know, and that was like maybe the first and only compliment he's ever given me. You know, and he was just like, you know, this stuff is probably working for you. You know, what came to you there seems dead on. You know, and So like I need that guy in my life to run things by. So I had with all the stuff with my dad about, a year ago, it came to me that I needed to write my dad a letter and like tell him like how I was feeling and what was going on with me and how painful it was and all the stuff he'd done and how I've reacted to it. And so I was on the airplane. I was going somewhere, I don't remember where, and I'm writing this letter on my phone, and I'm freaking bawling, crying on the plane. I put every bit of my heart into this thing, and I wrote it, and I sent it to like 3 or 4 people that I really trust. And I'm like, do you think I should send this to my dad, or how would you edit it? And all of them were like, yeah, that looks good, man. That's from the heart. That it's going to be probably very painful for him, but I'd send it. And I was like, all right. And I sent it to Dave, and he was pretty much on the same page, and he said, but you know what? Call Don. Send it to Don and ask Don. He says, because I'm not sure on this. Don's like 40-something years sober, one of the most loving guys I've ever met. And I sent it to him, and he calls me immediately, and he says, don't send that letter. And I was like, why? I'm like getting defensive now because all these people told me to send it. And he said, don't send that letter. He said, you have expectation that if you send that letter, he's going to change. And you're going to do nothing but cause harm to yourself and to him. And so I didn't send it. That to me is why sponsorship still today is so critical. Because I wrote that letter, and I wrote it with a feeling of inspiration. And I think it was inspired. It helped me to write the letter. But should I send the letter? That was where the question was. So, luckily I got guys in my life. I got a lot of them in my life that I can call, but Ephraim and Dave are the 2 that I call almost every single day, just to say what's up. I like talking on the phone. I'm kind of like a girl, but I'm in the car a lot, so I'm always on the phone. But anyway, that may have been too long of an answer. That was blank. That's your recovery. Did you ever fire a sponsee? That's a tough one. I think it's yeah. Hold on, boy.
Is that what's It's got a name by it. Somebody signed it.
Yeah. Chris Kelly. You ever fire? So this is one of those things. I've never like directly was like, you're fired, but I have. I think it's my responsibility to tell them like with love, to say, look, the program you're working, there's no shot that it would keep me sober, and I can't co-sign the lie that it's going to keep you sober. I just need to tell you that, And, I've always been stuck on this. Like, do I fire them? Like, I need to tell them the truth, and like, I'm enabling them if I don't, but it's like, I don't know. I still get caught up on that, but I do think it's very, very important for me to tell the guy the truth and be like, look, what you're doing is not cutting it. Not like you're not cutting it for me, but like this program that you're doing, like I can't imagine that it's going to keep you sober. And so that's my responsibility. I know a lot of guys that will drop guys, I'm not that guy. The ones that aren't ready, the ones that aren't doing it, they usually disappear anyway. And maybe that's a cop-out. Maybe I should fire them. I don't know. But I've never gotten an inspiration to be like, I'm calling this dude. I'm just going to, So, anyway, what do you got on that?
I tried to fire a guy last week. I was meeting. I'm super busy, and I got one that we would sit down to read the book, go through the book. I got like an hour and a half, and he talked. I think I got through 2 sentences, and he talked for 30 minutes. And he didn't even take a breath. And I was like, all right, well, this was going to be tough. But I tried it again. I finally said, I got these other guys, these sponsees that need to be sponsoring guys. So let's give them to him. And so I tried to tell him, look, we're going to get this other guy to work with you. And he was like, no, what do you mean? You're breaking my heart. And I thought he was going to start crying on the spot, like I was breaking up with him. And so I said, okay, well, here's the deal. When we sit down, you be quiet. You know, hearing you talk is not going to get you recovered. And so we made a deal, you know, and I said, why don't you read since you like to run your mouth? You read, and then I'll tell you what to underline and what to circle and what to discuss. But we really don't need your input, you know, that kind of thing. And so I had that, and then I've had another one where I had two Kyles. I had successful Kyle and unsuccessful Kyle. Unsuccessful Kyle was unsuccessful. But I was working with this guy, and I had my daughter was 8 years old at the time. This guy came from prison, and he in his inventory, he had some very disturbing things for me with an 8-year-old daughter.
Oh, geez.
And I listened to it, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And it was a weird thing where there was like no remorse in his situation, and it was weird. It made me very uncomfortable. I couldn't do it. And so I passed him to unsuccessful Kyle. And unsuccessful Kyle called me after that inventory because he also had an 8-year-old daughter. I can't believe you did that to me. You knew that. No. And I was like, hey, man, just love and service, man. So that's all I got.
What's the most important spiritual advice you can give in the first year of recovery? The 13th step. No. I would say in the first year of recovery, I mean, if there's anything more important than my recovery in my first year, there's no shot I would have had any chance of ever getting sober. You know, I was so lucky that I had no kids, I had no wife, I had no family, I had nothing. So like the only thing I did was AA, you know. And I know there are circumstances to where that's not possible, to where you can't go, you know, I'm going to like 10, 15 meetings a week, every week, you know, for years, honestly, you know. But the most important thing would be get a sponsor and work the steps, you know. I was talking with somebody earlier, and it's like the definition of surrendered is like doing what my sponsor suggests, whether I want to or not, or whether I agree with it or not. You know, and luckily my sponsor is one of those guys that reads the big book. You know, one of those guys that, and hopefully, like the suggestions I make are going to be from direct personal experience or something that comes directly out of the book. You know, I really try hard not to, you know, talk out of my ass. It definitely happens, you know, but I really try hard. If I don't have any experience with it, I try my best not to, you know, give any advice on it. You know, they say like we don't ever give advice. I'm like, yeah, we do, like all the time. You know, if I got a business question, I'm calling Ephraim. You know, so anyway, first year recovery.
What was it?
Most important advice for your first year recovery.
I'm a big believer in the hit your knees. Hit your knees. I mean, I can't stress that enough. I was telling some guys earlier, my meeting attendance fluctuates, sponsees in and out. You know, I might have 8 and I might have 0. Reading the spiritual literature, prayer, all that stuff, that fluctuates. But I hit my knees every day. Since I had that conviction and I got called out, I hit my knees every day. And that's pretty constant. I'd say 99% of the time. So, I don't know. That's the only thing I can say that I do 99% of the time. And it's been working. So, I'm going to read the next question. All right. Oh, wait, that's not it. I wrote that. All right, how do I grow closer to God?
Get your knees.
So look, I will say this real quick. Meetings are good. Read spiritual literature, good. But I've learned more about my relationship with God than one-on-one with new man. That has taught me the most. I have one guy, I'm going to tell this real quick. I have one guy that I went over and beyond for this guy. He worked for me. He had a company truck. He would do good for a little while. He'd relapse, and it was terrible. And this guy was like super close to me. And one of the last times he relapsed, I dropped him off at the psych ward. I picked him up. We had a big falling out after I picked him up from the hospital. And I was driving frustrated. And I was gritting my teeth. God dang, after all I've done for him, I paid him $6,000 this month. He had the truck. He lived in one of my houses. I mean, I have done everything over and beyond for this guy. And look at how he's treated me. And then that little whisper said, how do you think I feel? I've been doing it for you and all the others. And I was like, it hit me, And so that's how I learned.
Yeah, one of the things I've sure most of you have heard of it says, if you want to get to know God, get to know His kids. And that's the thing for me is like that fundamental idea, like deep down within every man, woman, and child, this fundamental idea. If it's deep down in you, then if I want to find God, I can also find it in you. I can find that idea in you. And it's been, like he said, there's nothing better than sitting at a fifth step, And this guy, I mean, they walk in and they're just in terror, because they know that they need to share all this stuff. And I can't tell you how many times I've been doing a fifth step with a guy. And, what my sponsor taught me to do is to share mine first and all the stuff. And I share with him. And you just watch him like fall back in their chair. Like, oh my God, like I can't believe this guy did the same thing that I've done. And that's just those God shots that constantly happen. I mean, it talks about in the working with others, like there's nothing better than watching the guy you take through the steps go take another guy through the steps. Yeah. That's the best thing in the world. That's like how I know that God's like been effective in that relationship, is that they have this desire to give it away. Because like the awakening, the gift of the awakening is that I want to give it away. If I don't have a desire to help others, then I probably need to check my program. That's my barometer. Like if I'm waking up in the morning or going, and throughout the day, if I'm not looking for ways to be of service, there's something going on in my spiritual program, and it's usually that I'm slacking on 10 and 11. If I'm not diligent about 10 and 11, people don't generally come up and ask me to sponsor them. Because I'm not ready because steps 1 through 11 prepare me to do the work in AA, and the work is helping others. And that's how I developed my relationship with God, was through new guys that don't know anything. And then sometimes they'll say something and just blow the top of your head off. You're just like, oh my God, like I've never thought about that ever. Or they'll ask you a question that like, you're just like, dude, I have no freaking clue, And then maybe I got to go search for the answer. And maybe I'll go talk to Dave or Ephraim or whoever it might be, and I'll find an answer, So, anyway.
Any question? You got a lot of questions.
How do I find the right sponsor in AA? I don't think you can. I mean, like the right one is probably the one you ask. When I was new, I thought that the sponsorship relationship was this marriage that I could never separate from. It was like the biggest decision of my life. Like, who am I going to ask to sponsor me? And it's like, when I meet with a guy, if I remember, I try to remember to be like, look, dude, any time in this relationship, if you want to find another sponsor or you want to go with another sponsor, I will never be angry with you. I will applaud you and be happy that you did it. This is not some sort of marriage. Like, you can break this contract anytime you want. The first guy that came to me in an AA meeting, he was like, he asked he asked me if he could be my temporary sponsor to like lower the level of commitment, and it was enough for me to step in, So finding the right guy, look at the guy reading the big book, but don't pick the guy that has great shares in meetings. If they also have that, that's fine. But get to the meeting early and watch which old timer is setting up chairs and helping clean up afterwards. And when somebody walks in the door, is he going up and talking to them? Pick that guy. The guy that talks great in meetings, like, screw him. Like, that doesn't matter. Watch what they do. Watch their feet. So.
All right, I got a question right here, okay? Can you tune Yamaha pianos?
Is that really a question? Yes.
I wrote that one because he hates Yamaha pianos. Will I ever get it? Rarely have we seen a person fail who thoroughly follows the path.
Yeah. It's funny because we were talking about, I heard some people talking about, that we're all miracles outside by the fire earlier. And I get it, and I understand the statement. But, this guy, when I was early on, he told me, he's like, we're not miracles. He said, AA is the miracle. You got a choice every day whether or not to participate in that miracle. He said, I've seen a lot of miracles die. I've seen a lot of them die. But everybody I've seen that does the steps, somebody that finishes their amends, I've never seen one drink again, ever. Finish. Not all but one. Good Lord. I truly understand how forgiveness works. I have experienced the freedom that comes with making amends and forgiving others. So why do I have those 2 people left that I can't bring myself to make amends with if I know it will only set me free?
God wink. God wink.
Yeah. Wow. I just said it. Yeah. How free do you want to be? I mean, I'll read it. I've gone through the steps, but I feel like I need to again. You probably do. But don't think that. But like going through the steps is like. And I hadn't made all of my amends. And I'm like, well, maybe if I go back through the steps again, I won't have to address the amends.
I got this one. So let me tell you what I did. Moon. Okay? I went to my dad with amends. My mom, dad, blah, 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 blah. Great. Everything's good. I'm walking out of the room with my dad. He says, hey, don't forget you owe your sister $4,000 for that car. $4,500. Like, dang. So I bought. I didn't have no money. I bought. Okay? And so I dodged my sister. I did some other ones, but I dodged my sister. And I would do this thing where, I really want to do it in person. But I just don't ever see her. Exactly. And when they invite me to Thanksgiving, I ain't going because she's going to be there. And so that's what. But what happened was I moved and I got to this. I think I need to go back through the steps. I'm going to get a different sponsor. So I got this guy take me through the steps, and we're doing inventory. There was a little bit of stuff in inventory that I needed to talk about. I thought I was over, but the biggest thing was when we got to amends. My sister, you never paid her. And it was like, man, I didn't need to do no damn inventory. I just needed to do the amends. And that's when I was like, I'm just going to call her. I'm lying to myself. I'm fooling myself with this whole, I need to see her in person. And it's like, I just picked up the phone and called her and said, look, I need to pay you for the car. How can I set that up? And I paid her. I did a bunch more stuff, but I did finish that. So. All right. When does it get better? When you hit your knees. I know whoever wrote this ain't doing it.
Yeah, one of the things he was talking about, sometimes I think I would just rather inventory than change. I'll just find more information out about myself so I don't have to change. It's this self-obsession. So I'm under the illusion that if I just inventory it one more time, surely it's going to cure the problem. It's like, no, you probably just need to go fess up and make your amends. That's the answer. So, was there a point in your recovery where you became sure you were free from using or drinking? If so, what point was that? Sure, like forever. I don't know that. I try not to ever get that far in the future. But, I can remember I talked about I was on 6th Street and Farmer and I felt like I was okay. But one thing I did do when I remember pretty distinctly when the obsession went away was my buddy. Remember Will G? Big, thick Will G? He called me and he's like, our boy Ben just relapsed. And we got to go take him to detox. And, I thought about drinking all day, every day for 10 months. And he called me and I was active in AA. So he was like, come with me. You're never supposed to go alone, And I went. We walked in that house and I looked at that guy in the eye. And I saw that terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair, And I saw myself and I saw those demons, man. And we ended up taking him to detox. I still have no idea where he is now. But that day, the obsession left and it has never come back. I'm 100% confident if I continue to do this, it will not come back. I'm not afraid of relapsing. I'm afraid of letting up on my spiritual program of action. Because I believe Alcoholics Anonymous is infinitely more powerful than alcoholism. If I continue to do this, I'm convinced I'm going to be fine. So
I wanted to clarify something. Like, we talk about making all of your amends and this and that. And look, I have heard every excuse. Why you can't do it, why I can't afford it, why I can't. You don't understand. Blah blah blah. And same thing with like any kind of the spiritual practices. There is always a reason why I can't do it. And it says in the book, simple but not easy. A price has to be paid. And I forget a lot of times that I've tapped into an unlimited supply of power. It's unlimited. So any time where I'm going, I can't, well, I'm placing limits. And I don't like that. I don't like I can't. I don't ever want to hear it. I don't want to hear about your limits. I want to hear about how God is limitless. Show me. Let him demonstrate through you what he can do. Of course it's supposed to be impossible. What do you think a miracle is? A miracle, miraculous, is something that is impossible but has favorable results. So yeah, it's impossible. That's how God works. Yeah, it'd be kind of boring if it was like, oh yeah, that's nothing to it. I'll go ahead and do that. What kind of story would that be? God doesn't want that. He wants the impossible. Get out the way. Let me show you. All right. Oh, Ephraim, whatever happened to Moon? We ain't talking about it. We ain't going to talk about it no more. That's what happened to Moon. I gave Moon a 30-day chip and never seen him again. Poor Moon. What does it mean when we hear about being sick in sobriety?
Sick in sobriety, I mean, you're talking about your spirit, obviously. Spiritually sick, it's like I was just talking about, like I need a sponsor more today than I maybe not when I first came in, but I still need a sponsor. And it's super, super critical, I still got stuff in my life that I suffer a lot from, but I don't like to get on this thing. That's the thing, like the recovered and recovering, like I don't ever really get into that debate. But I remember when my sponsor made me highlight recovered on the title page. It's like literally in the very front of the book. And he just says, that means that you can no longer blame any of your problems on alcoholism. Once you've gone through the steps, you've had an awakening, I can no longer use alcoholism as a crutch. Not that I'm cured. I'm not cured, but I've recovered from the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I've basically been restored to a normal human being. People don't know I'm alcoholic when I'm walking down the street. They have no idea. I told you about talking to my boss. He had no idea. Mm-hmm. Do I obsess about things a lot more than the normal person? Probably so. But I've found people that aren't alcoholic that obsess about stuff too. I just have an allergy to alcohol, and when I stop, I always start again. But I hope that helps. Sure. You want to read it, or you want me to? Are you happy? That's a loaded question. Is life easier? How many times have you done the steps? Am I happy? Let me answer. Yes, but my definition of happiness has drastically changed. Yeah. I thought happiness meant elation. I thought happiness was like orgasmic. You know what I mean? Like like the feelings you get when you hear like a powerful speaker or something. You're like, oh yeah, like that's happiness. It's like, I don't know if I'm happy, but I'm at peace and I'm okay with myself. And when I look in the mirror, I don't want to kill myself. You know, I still don't find myself attractive. All that, I was talking about it, but like, I'm okay with me today. Is life easier? I mean, probably infinitely easier. It's still got its battles, but I've got a spiritual toolkit laid at my feet. You know, how many times have you done the steps? A lot, a whole lot. Probably once a year I'll do a really thorough inventory. Maybe every 2 years, depending on what's going on. Go through it with a sponsor. You know, I like to, if I've got a lot of close women that in recovery. Sometimes I'll have something that, like maybe a woman's take will be better. I like to read an inventory to her sometimes. But definitely somebody with a long time sober. You know, I'm not calling somebody with 7 months. Can I read this to you? You know? Anyway, you want to answer that one?
I asked my third grader, I got a bunch of kids, I asked my third grader, I said, would you rather be happy or would you rather be useful? And she said, I'd rather be useful because if I'm useful, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
So I keep that in mind.
You sure she's yours?
The third grader, I asked her to sponsor me after that. All right, I have a little time. I'm struggling with sloth. Sloth?
Yeah, sloth.
Sloth, big time. Does anyone else help? We were going through character defects, me and Dave, and I said, "Aha! I got you on that one. I do not have sloth. I'm a worker, you know. I work, you know. I'm a hustler, entrepreneur spirit, you know. I'm a mover and a shaker." And he said, "Let's talk about your spiritual life." I was like, okay, I got that one. I got it, dude. I got that one too. So when it comes to my spiritual life, I have a tendency to be lazy. My spiritual exercise is a discipline. This is how we let God discipline us. And so discipline means sometimes that I have to force myself to do it. And I don't really feel it. I don't feel like it. I don't want to do it. I do it anyway. I make myself do it. Same thing with exercise. There are things that I do to treat my mental condition. And I know that if I do the things, I feel better. You know, I have better time. And so I make myself do it. It's disciplines. Real quick, I had this thing where I kept having bad days, okay? Kept having bad days. And so I get into my head, I got the whisper going, I got Slick going, you know, Morgan Freeman and Marlboro Man. And it's like, well, if you could have the best day ever, what would it even look like? Do you even know? How do you know you're having a bad day? So if you could have the best day ever, what would you do? And so I was like, okay, well, I'd probably wake up, I'd do a little prayer meditation. It's good for me, I like it. I would go to work. I don't want to stay at work, though. I like to work, but I don't want to be there all day. So I'd go to work, but I ain't going to work 12 hours. I want to work 4. And so I'd go to work 4 hours, maybe take the kids to school. I like taking the kids to school, work 4 hours, take a lunch break, meet with a sponsee, go to a meeting, get a little exercise in. But I don't want to run a marathon. I'm talking like 30 minutes. I don't want to be training for a marathon. That's too much because I have a tendency to go over the top. Pick the kids up from school, have supper with my wife, hang out with her. That's a good day. And then the little whisper goes, "You're doing it. You just described your life." It's like, damn, I'm doing it. I'm living my best life now. So I guess it's good to have, like, what is it? What's it look like to you? If God's the creator and He made us in His own image, then you're the creator of your own life. Build it.
Yeah, one of the things, alcoholics are the only people I've ever met that will treat loneliness with isolation. I'm lonely, I'm just going to stay home. It's insanity, but it makes total sense to me. And a lot of times the solution to the problem is not what I want to do, what I feel like doing, or what I think is even the thing I should do, you know. And I think the longer I'm sober, the less likely I am to listen to feelings, and the more likely I am to listen to facts, and listen to a sponsor, and listen to intuition. But, you know, whether or not I want to do something has nothing to do with it. So, hope that helps.
Just the last two questions.
Oh, we got a long time. You know? When did you have your first spiritual awakening? Both of you in detail. Jesus. Demanding, huh? My first spiritual awakening, well, like the awakening, I talked about that spiritual awakening I had, like that white light experience, but I wouldn't even really consider that like a spiritual awakening because it was not of me. It was kind of through me. It just kind of happened to me. There was no work involved. I was just in an insane amount of pain, and God found it fit to take that away from me, and I had that white light experience. But the awakening has been just what it talks about. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like grumpy and miserable, and I don't want to do it. But I get out of bed, and I say my prayers, and I start brushing my teeth. I'm a little more awake, and then maybe I start putting my clothes on and shower or whatever, and, I get a little more awake, and then I get in my car to go to work, and I wake up more. But, that's like the process of the recovery is that awakening. Like it's a gradual process of this awakening. So I don't know if this exact moment, I remember that moment I was talking about of finally having that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm okay. Like I'm finally okay, But I've had many, many, many moments throughout my sobriety where I've had an experience that has just blown my mind. Blown my mind. Things that are just unexplainable, that just don't make any sense. I'm thinking about so-and-so I hadn't talked to in 2 years, and they call me, and 10 seconds later, we're connected, So anyway, yeah, I can't think of one single moment, but I've had hundreds of little bitty things.
First spiritual awakening was booze. Second one was probably crack. And then that stuff quit working. And so I come into AA and I have these small spiritual awakenings where it's just like it sounds, where I wake up. And I'd love to give you some awesome story, but mine was more me and my wife are married. I'm in the house and I was taking a shower, and I remember my feet were barefooted on the tile floor. And I remember feeling it, like it really, I don't know, I became present, and I was it was holy shit, you were taking a barefooted shower. You don't have shower shoes on, man. This is your house. You're barefooted. You're not worried about little babies going under your, it's because I spent a lot of years taking showers with shower shoes. And it was little things like that. It was kind of crazy. Here I am, ex-con, and my neighbors are he's a surgeon, and this guy's an attorney, and I'm taking barefooted showers, and I'm coming out the house in my wife beater and my sweats, and I'm like, damn, man, look at this. This is crazy. How does a guy like me get to here? It definitely wasn't anything I had planned. So, all right, last one. All right. What is / how do you surrender? Let me tell you what it looks like. You're laid out on a gravel road. You're surrounded by machine guns. And they are saying, walk backwards, hands where we can see them. And look, negotiation time's over, buddy. Let me get something out of the car. No. Hands where we can see them. That's surrender. There's no negotiation. When I got here and they said 90 meetings in 90 days, I wasn't negotiating. I mean, do I really have, it's like, no, man, surrender. Surrender is when I throw my hands up and I let go. Tell me what to do. Slowly. I'll move slowly. Tell me what to do.
Yeah, it's like in the back of the book in that Herbert Spencer quote, like honesty, open-minded, and willingness. Like, I can't quote it exactly, but like these are the things that are indispensable. Like, I can't give away a surrender. I mean, if I could, everybody in here would be sober forever. Like I can't give that away. But one of the delusions that I have is like, I think that like surrendering is going to be a bad experience. Like when I surrender, I join the winning team. When I finally surrender, it's like, the moment I become willing to change, the willingness has already taken place. And that's one of those things is like, the pain is in the resistance. Like I'm so resistant to change and I'm afraid that if I change, what's going to happen? If I stop lying, how am I ever going to be protected? If I don't eat this donut, I'm going to starve, like that kind of stuff. And it's like all of the pain comes in this resistance to the change. The change is freedom. It's the part before that's so insufferable. The actual change in itself is like a finally. So we're going to do an exercise. Remember how I told you to keep an open mind this weekend? And kind of.
Oh, shit.
Hit your knees.
Yeah.
You've been trained.
So you're going to have to trust me on this one, okay? A lot of guys here did this last year. It's called the Whisper Walk.
Oh, yeah.
I just ask that you bring an open mind. And I'm going to tell you how it works. Chris, Chris will help me out with it and stuff.
It was Chris's idea.
Yeah, it's Chris's idea. If you guys don't like it, it's their fault. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to hand you a sheet of paper. We need to have like 4 people group up, and I'll give you the sheet of paper. And you're going to memorize what's on that sheet of paper, okay? And then we're going to go outside and don't stand next to each other. Make sure you're like a couple people apart. We're going to make, on this sidewalk here, or whatever you called it, the sidewalk, we're going to have one line down one side of it and one line down the other, and you're going to be facing each other. Okay? And we'll make it go as far as we can. I got them right here. So we'll try to split it into 4s. So
Like we're playing Red Rover?
Well, explain.
I'll explain more. I'll explain more.
Closer together.
All right. So you 4 like share that one. Oh. Like memorize what's on it. Don't tell anybody what it is. Just memorize it. Let's say like you 4.
Don't say it now, right?
Yeah. Don't say it now.
Memorize this.
You
said memorize this?
Yeah, just memorize it.
All right, we're hitting the sidewalk.
Yeah,
it's hot here.
you better look, you know what it is? Memorize it? What is that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're gonna make me forget it.